Welcome, and today I wanted to have a little look at two very similar features with two buildings in two different parts of the world. Now, the first one we're going to look at is this St Marks Basilica in Venice, Italy. And originally this was pointed out to me, or I should say to all of us, in a Conspiracy Are Us video called the Ponce de Leon Hotel. And he was showing the various Antiquitech devices on top of this St Marks Basilica. And really interesting. Probably very similar to the mercury-filled balls that we typically see on the tops, but in this case several, in this strange and interesting pattern, and certainly not seeming like some kind of a religious feature, not seeming like a cross, and really lending itself to having another purpose. And here another little look. Looks like this one is a little bit different, unless the little balls have been removed, not sure. And just a remarkable structure, probably worth its own video. But I did just want to focus on these balls for now, or these Antiquitech devices. And in the past, almost seeming to have a little different configuration, but nevertheless close enough. Now I want to compare them to this Hotel Ponce de Leon that's located in St. Augustine, Florida. And this is just a remarkable castle, and they're actually telling us it's a hotel. And here, if we look carefully, we also see the very same Antiquitech devices on this hotel in Florida. And here we get some images on this forum at stolenhistory.org, and here's an excellent picture depicting these Antiquitech devices. And again, a comparison, a little bit different but also very similar, very much seeming like the same types of devices, and really not even very aesthetically pleasing. Something that you would put up here for a purpose. And now if we look at the history of this hotel, it's said that it was the first concrete hotel. Solid concrete. It was the first of its kind, constructed entirely of poured concrete, using the local stone as an aggregate. The hotel was also one of the first buildings in the country wired for electricity from the onset, with the power being supplied by DC generators installed by Thomas Edison. So very interesting. They're actually giving us the excuse for it having power at a much earlier time, to Thomas Edison wiring it up with DC generators. Very interesting. And perhaps these devices actually showing themselves to be more than ornamentation, where we're told this place was powered up in 1888. Very beautiful and very mysterious. and just boasting amazing detail and what seems to be tech and architecture before its time. And this man, seeming as if he has nothing to do with this glory surrounding him. And here the video I was talking about by Conspiracy Are Us, and actually showing some great pictures of the devices as well. I found with the St Marks Basilica, it did take quite a bit of searching before we actually found a picture of the Antiquitech devices themselves, and many pictures not showing them at all. And here a little look at the inside of the hotel, just to get an idea of the amazing detail, something that I don't believe could be produced today. It would be very difficult to find a contractor with these abilities. And it's worth mentioning that this hotel had one bathroom, and I'm not going to get into it, but the thought of building something like this with one bathroom is beyond comprehension, but simply worth mentioning. And finally, while we're on the subject of Antiquitech, I wanted to show this beautiful image that was shared by Captain Kirk in one of his videos. Excellent channel, I recommend you check him out. And here is a cathedral, and what caught my eye was this device in front of the cathedral, just seeming like absolutely a piece of Antiquitech machinery or device or technology. And it just seems so obvious, just as today we would put fencing, and pretty ugly fencing really, for this beauty, around something that was dangerous, perhaps something that was putting off a charge, and otherwise really no point in having this ugly fencing around here. And now this fencing does seem to come from this same era, not a modern fencing, or even modern for this photo, which is a pretty old photo. But this seeming like one of the most beautiful pieces of old world technology that I've ever seen. And I was absolutely blown away and just had to share it. And again, I just think that this gate or fencing is serving the purpose that it would equally today. A barricade. Keep away something dangerous. And for just a very interesting picture, these little vendors, and again having something to do with this, probably these two working in sync, as we see with the domes and the spires and the arched wings on each side of the buildings, as we see in the Vatican. And just a mind blower. And I would love to get into the history of this beautiful work of art, but I won't today, as I just wanted to focus on the technological aspect of this beautiful device found in the middle of this square. in the old world. And here I wanted to thank commenter Heptahudi, and this was a really cool share. He says, "This seems to be the location of Nuremberg. You can see the street grids, etc., and he gives us the coordinates. And just looking at this region, here we are, Maine, where we saw the recent head of a statue unburied, and nobody in the area knew anything about it, including the Historical Society. And of course we've talked about New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, St. John here. And here now we're looking at the potential site of Nuremberg. And I just want to thank all Google Earthers, really. What a service. Anyone who sits down and looks through this mystery, and whatever, I mean, really, who knows if it's all true. A lot of it does seem to be edited, but edited for the worst. I mean, if it's edited, we see nothing. We just see blurs like over here on the ocean. And if we still do see something, it's pretty certain that it probably is there, and it's maybe just a matter of time before it's smudged. And here we can see this amazing pattern out in the middle of nowhere. Swamplands again, as usual. Very swampy on the edge of these lakes. Really a fine line between swampiness and lakes and ocean. Just kind of a big mess here. But regardless, this beautiful star fort, looks like the closest major city is this Sackville, and just glorious, clearly signs of prior civilization, clearly as could be, and I don't know what excuse somebody might have coming from a mainstream perspective, but I'm sure they would have one. And I've heard things like salt farms and lots of things, but pretty ridiculous. This is clearly a beautiful engineered pattern, not natural, and not made by some farmer. And now if we look a little deeper, it gets even more interesting. Here we can see surveys. Clearly somebody has been surveying every square foot of this ground at one point. And were these neighborhoods? I don't know. And look at how these chunks of land resembling icebergs. And yet they're not. So this is just really interesting, really anomalous area. And since I lost all my pins when my computer crashed, this is my first pin, and I'm very excited to explore this area in much more depth. And here are the coordinates down here. I encourage all of you to explore it as well. And very interesting. And one more quick thing I wanted to show was this glorious building of the courthouse in Chicago. And I saw this in a Gallica and just really blew me away. And I'm not sure if this is still standing today. Doubtful. But just a truly impressive and unnecessary building for these tiny little people. And I don't know what kind of courts we're to believe they were conducting, but truly unnecessary. I mean, a court really doesn't need to be any larger than a little corner of this. I think even a post office would have been a better designation for this building. At least we could visualize the need to store a bunch of boxes and parcels, even though that would be ridiculous too without elevators in the time. And very interesting. Just thought I would share that. So thank you so much for joining me today. and do have a blessed day. Please like, comment, and subscribe.